We're just wrapping up week 2 of patch 7.3. Kind of funny that just these 2 weeks have had more content than pretty much all of 7.2, huh? Haha. Hey, it's Soul. It's September 8th, 2017. This is Warcraft Weekly. That's Bob over there, and Kill Jaden is dead. So how was your week? My week was, well, it's kind of bittersweet, but on the WoW side of things, things are very much on the up and up. The guild finally got Kill Jaden down, and from the look on my face there, it's both one of relief and happiness, and at the same time, dread, because I told my guild that I was going to pay each of them 200,000 gold if we killed him this week. So there goes a lot of money.
Ahead of the curb or sleeping on the curb.
Can't argue there. As always, I'd love to hear how your week was. If you have a very exceptional story to tell, leave it in a comment below and maybe I'll read that. As a shameless plug, I also launched my new series, Tales from the Crossroads, where I read user-submitted stories, and that's about it. It's a way to celebrate the World of Warcraft by highlighting your stories. I think that for a first run, it went pretty well, but there are a couple things I'm probably going to change up already. One is that I'm going to mix in my own stories along with user-submitted stories. After all, I played this game for a while. I got things to talk about too.
Nothing sexual.
And again, because so much of the momentum of this series relies on you, I'm probably going to beg you over and over again, please, submit your stories. Send it to me via comment, through email, or any of my social media contacts, and I'll make sure that that story gets told. If you haven't had a look or a listen yet, feel free to check out the link that I'll have somewhere below and check it out.
Ooh, can I submit stories too?
You're kind of the voice in my head, so yeah, sure.
Like steamy hentai stuff?
No.
Aw, tentacles though.
So I'm going to pat myself on the back a little bit and read some comments from this first episode. Garib Chatterjee says that this, in my opinion, is an excellent idea. Player stories like these take the enjoyment of WoW to a whole new level. Please keep up these videos. Tivon says that was fun. I'll have to think of some good stories. Nathan says that this was a very cool vid. You do WoW and us a great justice. Great job and keep up the good work. Lockenstock says Horde bias. Yeah, go Horde or go home. Harry Gao says, absolutely love this, man. Sharing the joys of WoW is a breath of fresh air. It's easy to post about what sucks about Legion and WoW at the moment, or how vanilla were the good days and now it's pointless. To maybe help jog your memory or get those creative juices flowing, here's maybe a topic suggestion. Do you have a story about a really epic kill that you had in WoW? It could be a raid boss or an arena match or whatever. If you think you have a cool story to tell, write it down and just submit it. Sadly, I don't have a featured YouTuber this week. 1, I didn't do the research. 2, I didn't get a submission from anyone since last week.
Not an excuse.
So as a reminder, I do love promoting smaller YouTubers to try to promote community growth. So if you know any channel that has less than 10,000 subscribers, so I'm sorry Murgle, I'm sorry Mad Season, I'm sorry all you other bigger folks.
Hater.
You don't need a bump. But I'm talking about the smaller channels. I'd love to feature them in a feature video, so if you know anyone, send them my way. Last week, the legion of players over at the Secret Finder Discord channel were able to unlock the mystery of the Lucid Nightmare mount. It was quite the endeavor, and it was pretty unfortunate that I wasn't really able to take part of it. Heck, I don't even have the mount yet.
Slacker.
It's a very involved process, and with little doubt, there's already a lot of guides and other videos that are circulating this information. So no need for me to make any of my own. Just go ahead and look it up on Google or just check it out on Wowhead and MMO Champion. They have guides and links and all sorts of stuff that'll help you get going. Keep in mind that this is a kind of different secret finding mission. It's kind of similar to one that I didn't talk about before. It was a way to get I believe a certain kind of pet. You needed certain kinds of potions and other items in order to get through these different kinds of puzzles. The same thing kind of goes here, where you need a crafted helm in order to complete the entire sequence of things to do. On top of that, there's a big pain in the ass puzzle in the end. So if you don't have it already, double check the auction house or double check the materials that you need in order to create this leather thing that you need. At the very least, don't rush. Just farm the materials that you need, get the mount on your own time, and then you'll be alright. So 7.3's been out. As usual, there's been a lot of complaining, but on top of that, there have been a number of changes that have taken place since then. And here's some highlights. Earlier this week on Monday, global artifact knowledge went up by 1, and that shouldn't have happened.
Whoops.
So you can expect our next artifact knowledge level to go up by 1 on Tuesday's reset or Wednesday's reset, wherever you're from. An issue was found regarding the Argusian Reach Emissary. Apparently, like the Kirin Tor Emissary a couple months ago, there just weren't enough quests to complete it. The community managers were on top of this and cited a kind of promise from Blizzard that they intend to, basically whenever a new emissary comes up, immediately you should have enough quests in order to complete it right away. And this is regardless of whether you're like doing it or not. As in, I'm talking about pet battles.
Hey, pet battles are awesome.
Yes, they are. Okay.
Yeah, recognize.
So now, the Argosian Reach only requires 3 quests to be completed, down from 4. Like, whoop-de-doo. And that's because there just aren't enough Argosian Reach daily things at all anyway.
Whoop-de-doo.
I mean, that's how they want to get us, right? Like, put the good shoulder enchant, like the Veiled Argonite stuff, behind the reputation that goes up, like, super slowly compared to the Army of the Light.
Whoop-de-doo.
For those few of you who might have experienced it, over on Antorus, the Paraxis is roaming the skies. The Paraxis is a ship that every few hours bombards the area with fel or, well, something that's designed to kill us. Before a hotfix, you had to run inside a shield or otherwise leave the zone, otherwise you'll basically die. Players were pretty upset about it though. They didn't want anything to interrupt all their questing time or their bot farming time or, whatever excuse that they're talking about, and pretty much complained their way into making a change. Now whenever the Paraxis is out and about, you just need to make sure you're not standing still and you can avoid bombardment. Yay. Personally, and I'm just speaking for myself, that's kind of weak, dude. Like, I don't want some anti-AFK thing. That's weak.
Yeah, don't come with me with that weak sauce.
Yeah, you tell him, dude. I want something that feels, like, threatening. Now, there are a lot of ways that Blizzard could have done this. Like, they could have spawned, like, all of a sudden, ta-da, world boss. Or, like, just kind of how they have things right now. They have some of the raid bosses that are actually roaming around, trying to get people. But if they maybe had, like, them going around, but they would just straight up one-shot people, kind of like a Fel Reaver, like, you just couldn't do anything about it, I think that would have been cool too. But that still probably wouldn't mitigate complaints from players that are just like, oh, well, I don't want my quest time to be interrupted, and not to look down on that, but I just don't agree with that. So like I said, we're on week 2 of 7.3. Agrimar made his appearance, and to be honest, he should have just landed on top of the Vindicar for like the GG. And we're off to Macaroni, or Macklemore, or something. That zone. And we finally get a look of what Argus could have looked like if no one tended to anything for 20-something thousand years. But it still looks better than the crater that we were in last week.
7.2 didn't come out last week, yo.
Invasion started, which kind of feels like a kid's school dance, right? Like, everyone goes in, but then there's a bunch of people that are just kind of standing off to the side, just kind of like, what do we do? And then there's like maybe a couple people that are going in and doing, actual dancing or the actual work. So I'd love to get your folks' impressions on the zone. What do you think? Is it pretty? Is it pretty ugly? Does the color scheme remind you a bit too much of Ashara, just without the goblin highways? I'm cool with the fact that this is the departure from the whole Illidan and Army of the Light stuff. I do kind of like the Velen storyline a little bit more, and you can expect a conclusion to that next week. You might be relatively fulfilled from it. Speaking of the Army of the Light, and well, kind of sort of the entire Argus storyline, I provided some input, some feedback, maybe a suggestion for the future, on how we can possibly scale up some of the perception and some of the optics of WoW's story in a smart way. If you haven't seen it, you can check out what I'm talking about in a link below, but let me read off just a couple of comments. Nathan Moon says, I think Blizzard just doesn't have the time to create the assets needed to convey a proper environment to represent the lore. Trying to keep us content-hungry players satisfied is eating up the resources they need to develop those visuals. Josh Gamoff says, I'm disappointed that the Army of the Light is just Turallion, Alaria, Lothraxian, and a bunch of other light-forged Eridar. The Army of the Light in Chronicles is supposed to be made up of races from multiple worlds, not just Draenei. Professor Kaioken says that I'm hoping maybe there's more to it that we haven't seen or hasn't been told yet. Like maybe the invasions where we invade the Legion-controlled worlds might have some forces of the light holding them up a bit. Trixie says that other than the ship that appears during the Priest and Paladin campaign and the one that got shot down on Argus, you're right in saying that they're lacking a presence. But Matthew Lauren says that lore is at the bottom of Blizzard's give a shit meter. The way I see it, it is okay to kind of let players fill in the blanks for things that might appear to be missing. But that applies to things like,
Did Tord have diarrhea?
Yeah, but when it comes to drawing the narrative, and especially drawing the kind of conflict that the world is facing right now, well, it just kind of doesn't seem like it. In the history of Warcraft, we know what the first war is, we know what the second war is, we know what the third war is. Well, okay, hopefully you know what all these things are. If not, go to like Wowpedia or something and look what those things, look at what those things are. But there's so many wars that went on during the World of Warcraft. The War of the Shifting Sands, the Nexus War, the Ice Crown campaign, the Battle for the End. Well, okay, kind of a war, kind of not, but the battle for the Ender City. Those things have a somewhat more appropriate scale and scope that was presented to the players from Blizzard. Shadows of Argus is quite literally a battle between planets. You got Azeroth on one side, and you have an intergalactic planet-destroying civilization on the other. In the middle is just one ship, and that doesn't quite draw it out for me. I'm going to close this out today with a question for you regarding flight.
Here we go.
As you might have seen, there's been a lot of debate around flight, or you might have experienced what it is to not fly again after trying to navigate across Argus. There's been a lot of good points made, including, putting us in a situation where flying no longer applies after working hard for it for the past several months. There's the fact that Blizzard just wanted it designed this way. There's another point made that for the most part, new landmass that's introduced after an expansion is released typically doesn't allow flying. So here's the question, and this isn't entirely like my personal opinion. I'm not trying to look down on others. I'm not trying to make a very strong stance on flight. Heck, you guys probably know what my stance is at this point. But for those players, such as yourself, who might be very pro-flight, and one of the big reasons is that, after doing content once or after doing it like 50 times, it gets old and you want to be able to, do it faster, does that just mean you value the reward over the content? That's it. And with that, I'm going to wrap things up for the day. I want to thank you all for watching, and all the new subscribers that have joined me this week, welcome. I want to thank all the patrons who have been an integral part of helping this channel grow. If you want to help feed my dog, or you otherwise just want to help this channel grow, check me out on the Patreon page, but you know what? You don't have to do that. I just encourage all of you to support me the best way you know how. Like and subscribe, be a part of the conversations below, or contribute your story. Thank you once again for making it to the end of the weekly and letting me be a short part of your day. But if you thought this weekly turned out to be a big mess of doo-doo butter, let me know that too. I'm out for the week, and I'm going to celebrate this Kill Jaden kill with a night out.
Really? For that?
You all have a great weekend. Stay safe. Stay happy.
Stay breezy.
It's mine, dude.
Stay breezy.
Dude.
Ha 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 ha.
Buy condom.
Come on, come on.
Come on, fuck yeah.
Come on,
Come on.
Come on.
Do it!
There it is.
Nice job.
Yeah. Piece of shit.
Fuck you, Jaden!
Give me my money, B!